Welcome everybody to the True Self Talks, a live webinar right after our True Self session. And yes, what would life be without those curveballs? So if you're listening to the recording right now because you were wondering why the old webinar link didn't work, my apologies. My ego went into panic here the last couple minutes of our session. And this is quite characteristic actually for this session. So all I can really do is get a heartfelt laugh out of this. It's an opportunity here to share life, to ask questions, to talk about your experiences, and also to talk with not just me, but also the co-facilitators here, the energy healers and trance coaches that helped facilitating this really, really big session. So we had a lot of people in here, and I hope that you all find this link right now. We will be here for you and want to talk about the session themes, the energetic view on what we've observed and what we could learn from it, or where this is pointing us. We all have these questions right now. What will happen? When is this going to end? Or when is something new going to start? Or how am I going to deal with this? Or what am I supposed to do? Just a few examples here of those pressing questions that we all have that nobody seems to have an answer for. And at the same time, we are living in this harsh reality right now that we experience as our freedom being restricted. We can't be with the people we want to be with, in the places that we want to be at, and so forth. So there's a little bit of stuff going on right now. I guess one can say so. All right, this is not for the faint-hearted here. This is grown-up business, guys. What we are experiencing here in early April 2020, right now, we'll remember this. We'll tell our children and grandchildren about this. This is a noticeable shift for each and every one of us here on this planet, no matter where we live. And there's a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of fear and a lot of panic that comes with this, a lot of anxiety, the fear of the unknown. And we know where the fear of the unknown comes from. It comes from the ego's function, namely to protect us from, well, literally giving up on our life before we even live it, because if we would all basically be told the first day on this planet here, well, you know what, you're gonna get a few years here, and you're gonna go through a lot of trauma, you're gonna go through a lot of adverse experiences, and then you're gonna die. What would we all do? We'd say, okay, no, not for me. That's not what I signed up for. Nope, don't want this experience. So in essence, really, we've talked a lot about the ego and also the functions it has and how it can become a limitation when we want to connect deeper within. Because it has, amongst all its other cool qualities, namely to secure our survival, also a lot of things that can really block or prevent us from connecting deeper within. It can make us lazy. It can make us become dependent. It can make us, amongst all these things that we typically call ego states or ego traits, make us give away the authority over our life to others, to institutions, to, you know, whatever we choose to externalize it to. And this is the point of our road that we have arrived at right now. Namely, realizing this. We've given away our authority to choose who we want to be, where we want to be, whom we want to be with, how we want to experience our life. And we find ourselves in a place of sheer powerlessness and panic because we have no other reference for what it means to be me. And this is where the connection with the true self comes in, guys. So enough of the talk, the intro talk here. I want to welcome all of you. Thanks for being so flexible, for finding the link and for coming. And yes, so I had to go through this panic moment at the very end of the session, right then when our energies were starting to like, yeah, you know, sort of trying to feel out if it's actually worth it to trust in this inner connection. And I want to welcome co-facilitators here. I've unmuted your microphones as I was speaking, so you guys are all free to share, to speak into the microphone. All you got to do is click on your microphone button and then the line is directly open. We've had 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 co-facilitators plus myself. So 11 people who were observing the group remote energy session here, who were following the energetic processes that unfolded and who are together creating a very differentiated picture of what it is that we here as a group in our sort of mini collective, but representative for the larger collective, what we went through. But I would love to hear from you too, guys, how this felt for you, this 1 hour deeper connecting with your true self. Maybe some patterns that you've experienced. Patterns as in like maybe something like where you felt like, there's something there and I'm gonna go in there, and then, you know, maybe a hesitation where like, oh no, no, I don't trust this yet. Maybe you've had strong physical sensations, energetic clearing sensations, perhaps even, so things that you felt in your body that sort of came and went. Who of you has had, and you don't need to be able to explain it, but who of you, let's use this wave your hand button here, the raise your hand button. Who of you has had physical experiences during the session, even if it was just briefly? Oh, wow. Nice. I mean, that's literally everybody. That is cool, guys. Okay, I want you to understand that this is a sign that you are not just sort of passively sitting there and waiting for me to do the healing on you, because that's not really what this is, right? This is a self-healing event. So what this is about is you experiencing your own inner connection. And whether you are aware of it or not, whether you are sensitive to energies, whether you training or education in energy work, really doesn't matter, because guess what? Your energy is always there. Your energy knows what to do. So your energy did something there. And the first layer of our being where we notice this is in all kinds of physical sensations. And that's something trans coaches, you can share here. just to give a little bit of an idea of how much of these or how many different of these physical sensations we felt during this session. Hey,
Hi,
Julianne.
Jona. Hi, Jona. It's Julianne. Hi, everyone. At the beginning of the session, I noticed a real tickling feeling in my throat, and a couple of the other trans coaches, I think, felt the same.
Mm-hmm.
And just that tickling sensation, and also in the heart. And a bit of the way through the session, I could feel this energy like wanting to ground to the earth, wanting to ground to Gaia. But there almost felt like all of a sudden I got this whoosh of fear and anxiety coming up from the earth, and it actually went up my legs like a real tingling feeling, like that feeling when you have got deep fear and anxiety and the energy sort of rushes.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of showing that fear to connect, this anxiety that sort of throws us out of our body and into our head, and that spiraling anxiety. That was one of the sensations I had.
Spiraling, yes. This is a word that we use in energy work, Julianne. What I hear you say, I mean, we were together live doing the session, not in the same room, remotely, and we've exchanged a little bit. But for someone who's new to energy work, spiraling is kind of like, it kind of goes through us like a router, right? It sort of clears out all the pipes, and we get all these like random things, like a tingle on our right pinky toe, and then like a pressure on our left hip. And I mean, I'm just sort of pulling this out of thin air. One of the strongest sensations here, from what most of the co-facilitators reported, was this, what you described, this pull into the earth, this grounding feeling, like heavy feet, heavy like legs, things that somehow like a gravity of our physicality. Did anybody else experience this? Is this something you guys can relate to? Like something like that. It doesn't always come with a specific physical reaction. It is, like that you actually feel tingling, or it can be a vibration, it can be a heat in certain areas of your body. It's just something that you notice wasn't there before, and it also goes away as fast as it comes. Yeah, so some of you experienced this. Gloria sharing a lot of physical sensations during the session, and very strong sensation actually before the session. I was a bit worried with all what I was feeling, and then I realized that we're having this transmission today. Did anybody raise your hand? Did anybody have already kind of like really weird or strong or new, or any kind of like response before the session already? Yeah, felt some body aches. That was me. Like an hour before the session, I could barely move. Oh, interesting, Margarita. You felt moving in your belly, tingling in your right arm, general sense of trust. Very nice. Yeah, it seems almost random, right? When we share it like this, and I want you to feel encouraged to not be afraid of saying these random things, because that's how random they were. So
Hi,
release symptoms. Yeah. Hey.
hey, Jona, this is Margo. I'm
Hey,
sitting here
Margo.
with on my side. We both did the transmission as a participants.
Hi there.
I just wanted to share. Yeah, I had a lot of heat towards the end of a session. I would say maybe like second part of the end of a session, and lots of heat coming from my feet, and also a beautiful, profound sensations and feelings of gratitude. Like just this water was hugging me and made me feel very grateful for the connection I suppose I have with my true self. So beautiful, beautiful end of the session.
Especially to its, yes, I hear you, Margo. This is exactly how we read this. There clearly was a shift towards the second half of the session and towards the end. there was the heat. We felt this as well towards the end. There was an expansion that started right around minute 33, and it could be felt in the heart. And it was a bit, I want to say, almost painful. This is what we call heart expansion pain. This is when our heart chakra actually begins, and this happens spontaneously, when it begins to really go into this deeper connection, it begins to expand. And if you believe it or not, but with all the shallow breathing that we do and all this sort of caved inness, especially when we feel anxiety and powerlessness and so forth, there is a sort of a tension in our rib cage. And when our heart actually begins to expand, not our physical heart, our heart center, our heart chakra, this energy field around our heart chakra, it can actually be a little painful. This is a typical energetic sensation, guys, and has to do with our energy, our hearts expanding, our energy going into a deeper state of inner connection. Now, there's also a problem with this. What is the problem? Nobody likes heart pain, right? Nobody likes heart pain, because what does our brain say when we have heart pain? It says something like, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. Why am I having so much pain in my heart? What's going on? We get scared, right? And then our emotions go, oh no, I bet it's the transmission. Am I absorbing something? Oh no, what is going on? And we get all confused and we get all scared of a sensation that is actually showing us something positive. But because we're not used to actually going through this, to accepting that this is part of the deal, man, if we have been, this is like if you haven't been moving at all. This happened to me yesterday. I haven't been moving in 2 weeks. I was so busy here sitting at my desk doing sessions nonstop. But when I went to Amanda's online yoga yesterday at SKYPE, this is for free, by the way, link will be here in the description. It really kicked my butt. I'm like so sore and have so many body aches right now, because through the expansion that took place in this yoga session, wow, so much got released, and my muscles, begin to, like, expand, if you will, and so forth. So there is a soreness that we can witness, and it scares a lot of people, but I want you to feel encouraged that this soreness that you feel around your heart has to do with, the typically closed heart. Okay, this is not a sign that you're getting a heart attack or that you are having some kind of darkness in your heart. This is a sign that you haven't really been connecting with your heart a lot lately. Okay, just like muscle sores. So just on a side note here. Yeah, Janet is sharing. Gratitude came in for her. Yes, and a happiness, to be here. Just a gratefulness to be here. Yeah, Nigel, sensations in the knees always indicate shifts and changes about identity. All right. Our knees are actually kind of extensions of our ego identity. They also have a lot to do with inner child stuff, unprocessed inner child stuff, or inner child stuff that can get us basically into our inner crybaby. All right. And when we have knee problems, obviously, if we haven't really strengthened the muscle tissue around our knees and we suddenly put a lot of strain on our knees, then they're going to respond. And with age, we also get these, increased sort of joint pains altogether, which always show us a form of rigidity, a holding on. They show us that there's a structural change going on. And because our body has been in that state for so long, it always at first resists it. And this is not just what happens with the body. This is also what happens with our energy and with our emotions and with our mind, right? We are going into a place here, not just what we're experiencing in 3D right now, but what we experience when we actually decide to just bypass all of this and go into this inner place of connection that we haven't really exercised a lot. And so, after facilitating this true self session every month now for, I think, 8 years, I think this is the 8th or the 9th year, it's something very common that I observe is that the beginnings of forming the relationship with our true self always comes with a lot of resistance. It comes with kicking and screaming. And not because it's bad, because we are afraid that it might be bad. Because so many of us, when they hear true self, the first thing they think is, oh my God, truth is going to be revealed. And that actually makes us aware of how much of our energy actually flows into not facing truth. Okay, this is where that fear comes from. But the other part is, well, if truth is being revealed, that means I cannot hide anything here. I cannot pretend anything anymore. And the ego does not like this, guys. Not because it is mean or bad or dark or anything, but because to a degree, the ego is there to protect you from seeing the deeper truths of everything. Yeah, so we have to kind of pick our poison here in this moment of deeper connection. Are we going to stay in ignorance? Are we going to stay in hiding from ourselves, which also cuts us off from feeling our feelings, feeling our truth, feeling our needs? It makes it practically impossible for us to be truthful with ourselves, to live in truth. Or are we going to just allow that ego bubble to burst? Because that's what we can recognize is needed to get past it. And you're correct, Nigel, yes, but the ego needs to accept, right? And we cannot fight it, no, because the ego is a integral part of us. And when we begin to integrate truth, we go through several stages there. The first stage that we need to accept is the resistance that comes up in us. And that resistance is not based on truth, guys. So what we felt here at the beginning of the session, all these releases that we had, these different physical sensations, there was also a lot of emotional sensations during the session. Those thoughts that were coming up, and the powerlessness and the fears and the specialness and the heaviness and the selfishness and the whining and complaining and the kicking and the screaming, guys. What you have experienced there was nothing but your ego's bubble bursting. And that's fine. That's good. So this is what connecting with our true self helps us to do. It is a necessary step. And what comes after that? And this is where here Nigel's comment comes in. Well, I can't really fight against our ego, right? It's an integral part. And it's so stubborn. Yes, I agree with you, Nigel. Why does it keep coming back? Right now, here comes something in that has to do with our choices. And that is what we rely on, what we are used to, what we accept as norm, what we depend on, what we prefer, right? Let me make an example. Laziness, for instance, is always a great example. I mean, we all know that laziness is not good, right? I mean, even if we've never really thought about it. But, you know, there's almost like an intuitive knowing that laziness isn't good. But what happens actually when we make choices that more or less support our laziness? There's got to be a part in us that gets something out of it, right? So now I'm asking you, just this example here, you can apply this to any other things that you have personal struggles with within yourself. Laziness is just something right now, you know, that is random. Procrastination, maybe, or all these things that have to do that, you know, sort of happen when we are lazy. Okay. Which part of us gets something out of it, and which part wants us to grow beyond it? What do you think? And please feel free to share into the microphone, guys. This is, after all, a life talk. And I can get easily into this lecture mode here because I do this so much. Yes,
Jona.
Cheryl, thank you. You're going to relieve me.
I'm quite familiar with all that you just mentioned. My ego likes, well, I tend to call it juice, the payoff of the procrastinating, of the laziness and the self-beratement that comes with it. And it just serves as a form of self-punishment almost, like I'm looking for a reason to feel poorly or bad or negative or whatever. So I can use it as a block to feeling my truth, my full potential. So yeah, I still do it to this day. And this morning I said, okay, that's enough. I'm going downstairs and I'm doing that project, the book work that I've been putting off for a week. But it's an interesting thing to be observant of and to know why it's happening and to still do it anyway. So I do. I giggle at it and it's like, oh, okay, that's done. And then almost like I'm waiting. Okay, well, what's the next thing I'm going to use to get in my way? So it's quite powerful. It's very effective.
But let me ask you, since Cheryl, you are a self-selected expert on these topics. Yeah. So you said something about ego payoff. You said something, there's a juice. Okay, so yeah, what is the juice in being lazy or procrastinating? What is it really?
There's a lot of, we call it CIV, critical inner voice, is chirping about shoulds and you know better. And it's just a lot of little voices in the head that like to bitch about stuff. Sorry for the language.
So what you're referring to is the self-punishment that you've identified as like
Yeah.
underneath all that. But on a surface level, I mean, what's the argumentation that is going on there in our minds? I mean, it's like, oh, I should be doing that. Okay, so the critical inner voice. And then the ego says, nah, let's just watch Netflix and,
Yeah.
you know, have a bag of chips, right? And what do we actually get out of that? I mean, you know, everybody feels crappy like after a bag of chips or a gallon of ice cream and, you know, watching a stupid show. Everybody feels crappy, but why do we do it anyway?
Again, it goes back to the payoff is to feel crappy instead of feeling good. Like if I allow myself to feel my full potential, my full truth, woo, there's nothing to complain about. So the payoff is to feel crappy, is to take me away from my highest potential, my highest self, about feeling good. It's a numbingness.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense to me. You know, I'm just playing dumb here, okay?
Okay.
So
Okay.
how can this be a good thing if it takes me away from growth, if it takes me away from connecting deeper within, from happiness, as you call it? Still doesn't make any sense. There's got to be more in there.
There's got to be more in there. It takes me, well, let's go back to resonance and let's make it simple and call it the light and the dark. And the light is the or the dark is the absence of light. So when I'm distracting myself and finding an ego payoff, a payoff meaning something I can complain about or squeak about on the inside, then it puts me more into my lack of light, my absence of light, and it pulls me into a numbingness or a downward spiral, as opposed to feeling light and
But wouldn't it
filled with
be
light.
so, if this is true what you're saying, I'm not saying it's not true, wouldn't it be so much easier to just do whatever it is that we try to avoid doing? Because in the end, we're going to feel so much better, right?
Right, but sometimes the ego doesn't want to feel better. The ego likes the payoff of
Ah.
feeling in a slump. It likes to feel bleh,
Okay,
and
so
that
why
makes
is that
most.
though? Why is that?
Um,
I'm not just asking you, Cheryl. I'm really putting these thought processes out here for reflection, because this is something really important to become aware of, like what we're truly up against here. And I know you have spent many years of training and education into decoding this within yourself, Cheryl. I know this, but I want us all to back up a little bit and look at it in a really simple way. Yeah, Nigel. Yeah, it makes it simple. It makes it simple generally for, yeah, okay, that's comfort. Exactly. The familiar. Yes, Linda, you onto something very, very, yes, and you guys are all, you getting it, man. I'm
And
impressed. Security
it
brings in,
takes away from our self-responsibility. Like when we just give up like that, well, we don't have to be responsible. And for me, that's a big thing of actually witnessing that part. Oh, I might just sit down and watch an episode of something, or if I push through that, I feel better when I actually get up and do something or go outside. But there's a part of me that's like, oh, I
yes,
might want
this
to
is
sit down.
exactly true. This is we don't want to take responsibility at that moment. And we're giving up that power, okay, to actually be happy. We choose almost like on purpose to feel unhappy, because yes, like Linda pointed out, because there's a twisted comfort in this familiarity, right? And like you also mentioned, Cheryl, in this familiarity of negativity with ourselves, right? And we choose this because it's easier, because we don't want to. We don't want to address situations or feelings. We just don't want to, because we don't feel like it. And why am I saying it this way? Because it's childish almost. Think about it. It's almost, yes, and you guys are all spot on here with the victimhood. It energizes the victim in us. Yeah, it's easier to be the victim than to deal with shit. Yeah, thank you, Alex. I like your language here, because that is true. It's true. That's the truth. That we are simply don't want it. We don't want to grow. We don't want to go into the highest expression of our soul self. Who the F cares if I can watch a shitty show and eat a bag of chips? And that's the truth we're all afraid of, guys. But if we never do this step to get out of our comfort zone and really deal with life, which means standing in our truth, feeling our feelings, allowing ourselves to experience new things, uncomfortable new things, to experiment, to explore, to make mistakes, and most and foremost, express. Because in expression, we also get a feedback from ourselves, like, oh, that was easy. Wasn't really that hard. Now I have a feedback. Now I can learn how to trust in all of this. Now I get hope. Now I have more courage next time. Do you know how I do this with the Netflix and the bag of chips? I think this is what you were asking, Janet. An example of of inner work to overcome laziness, I tell myself that I feel the pull into my comfort zone, but I know that there's something that I'm not willing or that I'm procrastinating to face. And my ego is bombarding me with, oh, wouldn't it be nice to just sit down and watch a. I love Outlander. And, you know, this is like, you can always get me with that one. It's not very high in conscious level. I still love it. Okay, and to have a bag of chips, I use it as a reward. I say to myself, you can do whatever you want to do once you're done with facing what it is right now that you're trying to avoid with going into your comfort zone. Because whenever I feel the pull into my comfort zone, there is some unmet need underneath this. There's a need that I have, something that, you know, maybe something that I need to give myself, something that, you know, I fear I might lose, something that needs to come to an expression, something, it can be many, many different things. And, you know, facing it doesn't always mean to go into this like arduous, endless process of chewing through it 100 million times and coming up with a plan and blah, blah, blah. No, facing it means to stand in my truth and to talk with myself like a grown up. Okay, hon, what's up? What do you not want to feel? What are you afraid of losing? What's there that you don't want to feel? Let's just do this together. It can take 5 seconds and come with a huge relief. Perhaps not with answers, not with solutions. Because that's then what the ego says, oh, what's all this good for, right? I mean, if you don't have the answer, if you don't know what to do. But here's where we all make a mistake. We mistake our ego prompting to come up with solutions and fixes with knowing what to do. This has nothing to do with it. If we have a problem, if we have something that we're processing, something that we're integrating, something that we are struggling with, we don't need answers, guys. We just need to be present. We just need to participate. Because what our ego suggests is how to distract ourselves from not participating. And so I reward myself with an episode of Outlander and a bag of chips. After I do this, obviously this is a discipline that I've developed in my life, not as in like rigid discipline, but as in something that's how I work with myself, right? If I feel resistance in me, I'm like, okay, what am I resisting? Is there something that I need that I'm not getting? Is there something that I don't want to see? All right. And this isn't an endless process. It really is just standing in my own truth. And oftentimes it comes with a really, really strong sensation of grounding. Right? And then I get myself the reward. And guess what happens? When I am actually connected with my true self and when I'm present with myself, watching an episode of Outlander, which is highly emotional, is totally fake. You know, I sit there watching, I love it. There's a part of me that loves it. But then there's also a part of me that says, nah, nah. But great costumes. Okay. So in this way that I'm presenting this to you right now, I'm trying to help you see something. That we have the authority to choose what we want to do. But we have to make those choices consciously. Because when you go on to avoid something and you lie to yourself and you know all you do is stay in your comfort zone, you're distracting yourself from actually being yourself. Right? That's autopilot. That's your ego autopilot and you are no longer awake. You're no longer aware of your inner connection. Only if you consciously choose to be awake right now. Okay, right now, true self, I'm showing up. Hey, how are you doing? What's truly going on here? That's when you are conscious. That's what awakening is. Yes, Julian, you're right. It's as easy as taking a deep breath. And oftentimes, I do recommend people to start with taking a deep breath because it actually does connect us, first on a physical level, but it's very calming and very grounding. And then we can move on to the emotional level and ask ourselves, so what are my true emotions right now? One of us here has lost a loved one 2 weeks ago and has experienced a lot of heart pain during the session. I want you to know that it's totally okay to feel that. Okay? Grieve is an emotion that informs us about us going through a loss. And it's okay. Allow yourself to feel that way. Do not be afraid of grief. The same could be said for anger. Anger is an emotion that informs you that there's something you need to change, right? Maybe something that you need to change about yourself or about a relationship or about a job or whatever. But anger clearly is, a sign that there's some kind of boundary in you overstepped, that this isn't good for you, right? There's frustration there. It's an inner guidance, guys. So you need to really understand that your emotions and also your sensations, that they are information, and even your thoughts are. But if you've spent a lifetime with your negative, critical inner voice, with a negative self-image and self-berating thoughts, which you most likely have already accepted as the norm, so you're not even realizing how negative it is, okay, then it's very difficult to really hear your true self's guidance, the information that your true self wants to convey to you, the true inner voice. Yeah, and you're right, Linda. It's about, the ego then comes with all these assessments and feasibility studies. Yeah, but what if you make a mistake? Or even, things such as, oh, you should have said that. Why did you say that? That's all negative inner self-talk, critical inner voice. And you know what? We do a lot of workshops here within the self-healing community. This how to overcome the critical inner voice and inner communication and so forth. And there's one thing I can tell you for sure from all the research that I've done there. 99% of what you perceive as your critical inner voice, as your inner pessimism, as your negative inner self-talk, isn't even yours. Those are not thoughts, those are not judgments, those are not things that actually originate within yourself. Those are things that you've heard either on TV, or your grandmother always used to say this to you, or your teacher in first grade said this to you, or blah 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 blah. Those are recordings. Those are recordings. And these recordings all relate to the past. Now here comes simple logic. If you keep doing what you've been doing in the past, if you keep listening to that inner voice, that critical inner voice, 99% of which isn't even yours, just some recording, some random recording that you've either picked up through collective energies or on TV or social media, or your grandmother or your father always used to say this. If you keep listening and acting upon it, or spend all your energy into avoiding the confrontation with that, Where do you think you're going to be in the future? Alex, you have a PhD in negativity. You know, I think a lot of us do. But what happens if we keep doing the same thing, guys? We keep doing the same thing based on our past. Sorry, I'm laughing about the comments that are coming in from you. Okay, so here's a cool sharing from Linda. At one point today, I got the overwhelming feeling that I truly don't have any room in my heart for negativity, pain, frustration, hurt, and so forth. So we'll be working at how to fill that void with soul connection, light, and peace, and global power. So that's your intention, yes. And intention, you know, is a sign of attentiveness. It's a sign of being present in the now, because you know it comes really from this realization that if I keep doing what I've been doing, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm just going to repeat my pain over and over again. And of course, there's the other side of our courage to wanting to change something, and there's the fear of the unknown. Like, well, but what if? And the ego wants guarantees, and oh yeah, and me and my story, and I'm, you know, my pain is so special, way more special than other people's pain, and they just don't understand how hard it is for me, right? And therefore, let's just not change anything. Okay, the realization that that is what keeps you there. And yes, with that kind of alignment, attitude towards yourself, you're going to have a pessimistic view on the future. Rightly so. It's bleak. Because you, if you follow me here on this, I have a thing for infographics, so I try to get too many things into one infographic, but just follow me here, okay? If you see the world through the eyes of your ego, based on your ego perception, which is pretty much driven by two things. One is avoiding pain, and the other one is seeking pleasure. And this can be translated into, you know, being attached to the pain of the past and the fear of the future. Okay. Then your life feels powerless because you are buying into, you are aligning yourselves to things are being done to me. And that produces an outlook on the future that is pessimistic. So yeah, those of us with a few more talents and, you know, who are, you know, at least in comparison with others, maybe, and through the eyes of others, blessed with, you know, say a lot of money or a lot of skills or, you know, lucky circumstances or whatever it is that we are making up here. We can go into specialness with this, and we can say, no, I'm not powerless. I'm not, no. I'm the one that does life. I'm the creator of my life. This is like the power of the mind, you know, the power of it's basically the misfigure or disfiguration or transfiguration of the secret, the law of attraction. If I just want this hard enough, and if I just put in more, and if I just try harder, and if I just really, really want this and best put a lot of emotion into it, then I'm going to make my life happen, right? Yeah. You guys know what that does, right? That creates fixation, that creates a fear of failure, that creates unrealistic expectations, and a really, really stressful life. It binds you to your third chakra, to your willpower, and often ends up with serious addictions and dependencies of some kind, because it's not self-sustainable. It isn't really until our perception shifts into truth and the ability to discern if something is true or not, even if this is just a feeling as in subjective experience. Then we begin to realize that what we are experiencing is neither really, it's neither good or bad. I mean, there's the negative inner voice, right? The critical inner voice and the ego voice that keeps commenting and censoring and criticizing what happens to us, that creates a strong opinion about what is going on, a judgment, right? But with a little bit of practice, we can filter this out and we can realize that really what is happening to us isn't really the problem. It's about how we handle what is happening. And that requires us to be fully present. That requires us to be an active participant in our life. This requires us to show up. Buddhism calls this present moment as awareness. Here in energy lingo, we call this connecting with our true self. There's many different ways to express this. But what begins to happen when we do this, and this is a way for you to tell whether you are in truth or not, is that you begin to develop a neutral stance about your future. It's like, okay, I mean, you know, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, it's okay too. You no longer have this strong opinion. Nigel is asking, what about the common phrase detached awareness? Very good question. This is something that we need to discuss in energy coaching sessions or in workshops. We have workshops in the forum, actually, Nigel, that you have access to about detachment. There's many different layers to that, depends on what level of consciousness a person is. The ego mind says, of course, well, if I just ignore this, if I just distract myself hard enough and long enough, well, yeah, then I can detach from it. But that is not necessarily truth. That's actually called dissociation. That's when we cut ourselves off from something. That's when we desensitize, we numb ourselves. And unfortunately, this is really what is happening here collectively for all of us. That's not truth. When we are in truth, when we become able to discern truth, and when we basically accept that there is a spiritual energetic reality, if you will, of things, we begin to realize that things are happening through me. You know, we begin to feel that there's some kind of inner prompting, an inner pulsing, an inner something, an inner guidance so many times that prompts us into experiencing something, going through something, growing through something, even if it is a crisis, even if it is an adversity, but that it ultimately makes us grow. And then we begin to see that we are instruments, but not in the sense of like pawn, you know, chess pawns in a game that other people play. Again, here we need to be careful with this. We had this here during the session. There's nobody else out there that can take our power, can take the authority for us unless we let it. And so with discernment of truth, we also begin to discern what we are actually aligning ourselves to. This is where all the dependencies, this is where all the, yeah, I mean, you know, what team we are on, the identifications, you know, whether I'm a Christian or a Muslim, whether I'm on, you know, a Democrat or a Republican, when all this falls away. because in the bigger picture, all this doesn't actually matter. Everything is just a temporary state of energy. And so, yeah, exactly. Blaming, you know, externalizing things, okay, gives away my power. So I need to own it. And by owning it, I will recognize how many times I was actually guided. Yeah, and this isn't even like religious or spiritual in a sense, in any way. This is really something that most of us experience. And then the highest level that we can experience here as humans is really when we go into our spiritual consciousness. And when we're recognizing that God is in me, or the higher power is in me, or that which is acting through me is actually in me, and things are being done as me. This is when I understand what the highest expression of my soul self, what that truly means. It's not just some aspired, upgraded version of myself. No, it is the true, authentic me, as close as it gets in living my life. As close as it gets. It's a process, not an event. So, guys, these true self events here that we do together, okay? These are training sessions. They are healing. And that's why I call them healing and training sessions, because it's not just about a momentary relief. Yeah, when we step into our truths and get through our ego bubble bursting and develop willingness and courage and acceptance, and when our perception shifts and we begin to see, oh, you know, it's not actually that bad, and all I need to do is to actively choose to do this. All right, that's when you become aware that the only authority about you is in you. Okay, you have the power to decide who you are. Nobody else can tell you that. Not your government, not your spouse, not your father, your mother, which is why blaming is childish. It's ego, blah, blah. Your true self is the only authority in guiding you to become the best you can be, guys. And that's why we do this. We have 48 other energy healing modalities that we do as a remote energy transmission that address specific aspects of that journey. But the true self connection is always the alpha and the omega. It's the beginning and the end. It's the greater process of all of us here fulfilling the only promise that we actually ever need to hold, and that is the promise to the divine to bring ourselves into the highest expression based on understanding that the divine is acting as me. And every time I procrastinate, I'm lazy, I'm lying to myself, I'm doing all the ego stuff, I'm basically arguing with God. I'm arguing with the divine. I say, nah, I know better. Okay. So ultimately, you know, from a higher conscious level, seen from a higher conscious level, it's all just about this duality in us and letting go of resisting life, resisting this divine creation energy in us that wants to come to an expression. So once we let go of all the things that are holding us back, it happens spontaneously. So I want to close with just boiling this all down to reminding all of you that the connection with your true self is the bridge. It's the bridge from being asleep to being awake. And what happens when you start walking this bridge, when you walk on that bridge, when you have the willingness and the courage and acceptance and everything, what you will find is that it's nothing but a continual letting go of all these false things that you've been holding on, all these untruths that you've been holding on to. So, since there are no secrets on this journey, and you know this about me, my teaching style is ask questions, be critical, but give yourself permission to experience it for yourself. And when you do that, when you make this a conscious choice, what you will find out is that this journey is not a journey of acquiring something or needing to be better or trying harder. It's a journey of letting go of your resistance, and letting go of your ego payoff for that matter, because that's the part that keeps you asleep. Yeah. With this, I would like to close. Do you have any questions, maybe in regards to this session? There was, of course, a lot more, or maybe your personal energies. We do have a forum thread for the session, so if you would like to get some more personalized info, or just give me a lot of time. I'm very, very busy right now, so it takes me a little longer. Everything takes me a little longer right now, like writing reports, getting to responses in the forum. Yes. And thank you guys for coming. Thank you for showing up for yourself. Right? It's wonderful. And by the way, just a very brief announcement here. I have donated the Sacred Self-Healing course. The energy processes in this 24-step program, which 20 of these steps are published, to facilitators, including myself, who are facilitating free Skype meditations as response to this corona situation. So if you are interested in connecting with your true self on a daily basis, you can literally now do Skype online meditations with us here and with, you know, these energy processes every day of the week. Typically here late afternoon, Florida, Eastern US time. So evening, late evening hours in Europe, at noon in Australia, and early afternoon in Pacific Coast. I'll put the links here with the recording, guys. This is such a wonderful way of really executing, showing up for ourselves, really being there, and such a beautiful thing to share this with others. Thank you guys for your hearts. Thank you for your gratitude. Thank you for coming. Love you guys. See you soon. Thank you to all co-facilitators here. Very, very special thanks. Bye-bye.